Hopefully. All right. So I think it's live now. Let me see if it's on. Oh, we are live now. So we're gonna give 1 minute and see if anybody joins. Hello, welcome. Sorry, we're starting a little bit late. We had some technology challenges. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the shift. I am so grateful you're all here today. But before we get in, what is really behind the bottle or a glass? Is it just a drink, or is it hiding something more? Today, we are going to be talking about how alcohol often masks stress, burnout, even quiet depression in men, and how it quietly affects blood pressure, your liver, your hormones, and your life. This is a special moment because today marks the final episode of our Men's Health Month edition. And I promise this is a conversation that most men never get to have, but absolutely need. Over the past few weeks, we have explored how midlife changes in weight, hormones, and energy are not just about getting older, but real metabolic shift. Why testosterone, sleep, muscle loss, and even libido are connected in ways that most men never hear, and how mental health stress, burnout, silent fatigue runs beneath it all. And today, we close this Men's Health Month series with perhaps our most intimate topic yet. It is titled Unbottled: How Alcohol Masks Mental Struggles in Men and Fuels Hidden Health Risk. Because here is the truth. Far too often, men are taught to reach out for the bottle instead of reaching out for help. Alcohol becomes the acceptable coping tool when words fail, when pressure mounts, and when it feels like there's no way out. Meanwhile, the hidden toll on mental health, blood pressure, and even cancer risk keep building quietly. I am not here alone. Joining me today are two incredible guests and brothers of mine, Damian Ba and Nelson Sema. They are not doctors or wellness coaches, but they are real men sitting in this space with honesty and curiosity, asking the questions so many others wish they could. Damian and Nelson, welcome.
Thank you. We're glad to be here today.
Thank you so much, Sema. I'm really excited that you're here with us today. Thank you so much. Damian, can you hear us? You're
Thanks,
muted.
Vera. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, thanks
Yes,
so
we can
much.
hear you.
And I think this hits very close. I've seen a lot of people use alcohol sometimes for fun, sometimes trying to deal with pain, right?
Right,
Sometimes we don't know the difference.
right. Thank you so
So
much, Damian.
what can you tell us? Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you mind repeating your question?
So I said sometimes this hits close to home, right? And I've seen a lot
Right,
of people use alcohol just trying to deal with their pain,
right,
right? Sometimes, whether it's for pain or it's for fun.
right. So sometimes, I see so much of this in my practice and in the clinic where a lot of men, they use alcohol to disconnect from their emotions because they were never taught to express those emotions growing up. So alcohol becomes a culturally acceptable, way of escape. A lot of men were never taught on how to handle hard feelings. From boyhood, many men hear things like man up, stop crying, be tough. So emotional pain, sadness, fear, loneliness gets bottled up. Drinking becomes a simple, socially acceptable way to numb up what they never learned to process. Alcohol is also always tied to like bonding, celebrations, even grief rituals. It is very common for us to hear phrases like, you had a rough day, grab a beer, right? Let's
Yeah.
drink to forget. It becomes the automatic solution and no one questions because everyone does it, right? Alcohol, is a central nervous system depressant. Many people don't know that it depresses your central nervous system. It slows down the brain activity and quiets those intrusive thoughts on days that are difficult. And usually people say that it takes off the stress in the moment. But the same changes that created that calm also lowers your serotonin levels, which is your feel good hormone. It disrupts your sleep and leads to rebound anxiety, making things worse in the long term. For most men, it is easier to reach for a drink than to say, oh, I am overwhelmed. I feel like a failure. I am scared about my health and my future.
So,
Drinking
Vera,
kind of does these confessions at least for a while. I hope that makes sense. Sorry, Nisima, you can go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to know how do we men know when drinking turns from social to emotional coping skills or something like that? How do we know? At what point do we
Yeah,
know?
great question. So, at what point do we know if drinking has turned from social to emotional? We use drinking, it's no longer social, we are using it as an emotional way to cope with issues. This is a really great question. Thank you for that. So, if someone drinks to avoid emotions, sleep, or to take the urge off the daily stress, that is a red flag. It becomes automatic. When it is harder to feel joy or relax without it, that is another sign. So, we have to be looking for the why behind the drink. Are you drinking to connect? Are you drinking to celebrate or enjoy taste and company? That is social. Or are you drinking to avoid numb or quiet stress and uncomfortable thought? That is emotional coping. So if you see somebody drinking to connect, to celebrate, or to enjoy the taste of company, it is social drinking. But when someone is drinking to avoid numb or quiet stress and uncomfortable thoughts, that is emotional coping. We also have to look at the drinking pattern. Is this person drinking occasionally with guilt or with compulsion? That is likely social. Or is this person going to drink after a stressful day? That is emotional. When it becomes habitual way to check out, that is a sign that it's changed from social to emotional. We also have to notice the emotional connection. Do you look forward to the taste and the laughter when you're drinking? This is social enjoyment. Or do you think I need a drink to calm down, to sleep, or not to think about it? That is a red flag. Ask yourself, if I couldn't drink tonight, will I still feel okay, or will I become agitated and restless? If the latter is true, it might be a sign it has turned from social to emotional dependency. The bottom line is, it is less about how much you drink and more about why you are reaching out for the bottle or the glass. I hope that explanation makes sense. That was
Yes,
a really great question.
thank you very much.
Yeah, so I think for me it's about toughness, right? The guys,
Right.
most of the guys drink to show strength, right?
Yes.
And nobody is asking them why they are drinking, right? And also, I want to ask now, how do you differentiate how do you differentiate whether alcohol is affecting your mental state, or are you suffering from depression because of that? Is there a way
Thank
that you can differentiate?
Thank you so much, Damian. Before I answer your question, I'm going to say thank you so much to Nick Clarence Dangam. He says, great show. Well done, Vera. Thank you so much, Nick. I really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And back to your question, Damian. You're asking how alcohol affects the mind, right? Especially with anxiety or depression. Can you hear me, Damian?
Yes, I can hear you. So my question, did you get my question?
How alcohol affects the mind, especially with anxiety and
Yeah,
depression, right? Okay, that's a
that's
really great
correct.
question. Yes, thank you so much for that question. So, like I mentioned earlier, alcohol is a central nervous depressant. It's a central nervous system depressant. So many people don't realize that. It slows down the brain activity. Why that feeling, why you can feel calm in the moment and say, oh, it's taking off the edge. It also lowers the level of serotonin and dopamine, the feel good chemicals in the brain. These chemicals help to stabilize mood and help you feel pleasure and motivation. Over time, Ingesting this alcohol lowers your baseline mood, making it more difficult to handle difficult situations and stress. It also increases the risk of depression. Alcohol disrupts your sleep. It messes up your rapid eye movement sleep. This is the state of deep sleep where your brain needs to process emotion and reset. So even if you drink alcohol and fall asleep faster, your sleep is actually fragmented, leading to more irritability, brain fog, worsened anxiety the next day. So alcohol creates this rebound anxiety. As your body processes alcohol, usually overnight or the next day, it rebounds, increasing stress hormones like cortisol. That is why people often wake up in the morning with anxiety, right? Hangovers, feeling shaky or more worried than before, even though they were drinking to numb those feelings. Alcohol masks real problems and then it amplifies them later on. It feels easier to drink than to confront stress, grief, or disappointment. Most men find it so easy to just grab a bottle than to deal with their stress, anxiety, or grief. But when we push all the stress, the anxiety, or our grief down, it usually comes back stronger, creating this vicious cycle of stress, drink, short relief, lower mood, and disrupted sleep, and then back to stress and drink again. So, while alcohol can feel like it's helping in the moment, it actually makes anxiety and depression worse over time. It's actually like putting a bandage on a leaking pipe. It does not stop the leakage, it just hides it for a while. I hope this explanation makes sense, Damian, and to our viewers who are listening.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Vera.
Yeah, I do
So,
have a follow-up call, Vera, regarding the depression. At what
right,
point can alcohol cause emotional withdrawal? Because that is something too that I hear a lot about it, but understanding uh, how to identify the point at which
right,
it causes withdrawal sometimes challenging.
right. Absolutely great question. Thank you for that question. You know, alcohol can literally make people go emotionally numb. Sometimes they become more irritable or withdrawn over time as they are drinking. Like I mentioned earlier, alcohol slows down the brain activity. It reduces your ability to fully feel not just sadness, but also joy, compassion, and connection. So while alcohol takes this stress, the edge of the stress, it also blunts genuine emotions. As mentioned earlier, alcohol lowers your serotonin and dopamine, which are the feel good chemicals in the brain. And over time, it makes it harder to feel motivated or excited by the things that used to matter. Alcohol doesn't just mask feelings in the moment, it actually trains your brain to avoid, detach, and disconnect. That is why so many men quietly pull back from their partners, kids, or even passions that they used to love once they start drinking. And that's why we see most times, men who drink, they pull away emotionally from their families, their partners, and even the passions that they used to love, like I mentioned earlier, without even realizing it. Sadly, men don't realize this happening until their relationships feel strained or they are suddenly irritable all the time. So, yes, alcohol really numbs a lot of emotions in men. Thank you for that great question, Nisema.
Thank you.
For all our viewers who are watching, please drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Drop a question if you have any question, and we'll answer it as we're going along. So my question will be to you, Nisema and Damien. Have you ever used alcohol to avoid emotional or hard seasons?
Yes, at times, right? At times when you're stressed, or at times when you have a situation, what do you try to do? You try to think that maybe a glass of whiskey or a glass of wine is going to help that situation, but it
Right.
doesn't. What you have to understand is it just postpones, right? It doesn't, and at the same time, you don't want to become addicted to it, right? Thinking that each stress that you have, you can always run to maybe hard liquor, or you can run to beer, or you can run to wine, thinking that it's going to solve the problem. It's not
Right.
going to solve the problem, right? I think what we need to do is we need to develop our own coping mechanism or coping strategies that we can deal with stress, be it emotional stress or the hard lessons, without involving alcohol, right? Yes, we have done it, but
Great
at the end, is that the
explanation.
best route to take? No, right. I think there are other mechanisms that you can deal with stress. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Damon, for
Yeah,
that question.
I would say yes. It's using alcohol as an emotional in the emotional state is something that men or myself we do it sometimes we don't even know it. For example, when you sign up work on a Friday, you believe that you've had a hard working week and it's Friday. Instead of getting a good rest, a lot of the time we would try to get a bottle of alcohol, thing that that is to start the weekend, which, based on the earlier explanation, is important to rest instead of taking an alcohol to replace your stressful week. Take some rest, drink some cold water. Think, yeah, that is something that women we need to learn, not only using our personal coping skill, but equally reach out to professionals who understand beyond personal coping skills to get assistance in how to deal with such a situation. Yeah, which events like this is a great place to learn, and that is why I'm here to share, learn, so that I can equally be a better person and know how to deal with emotions in a better way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sema and Damien. Thank you so much for those explanations. This is really, really helpful, especially because so many people, so many men, they grew up seeing that it is okay to just turn around to grab a bottle or grab a glass, to cope with emotions. Like I mentioned earlier, so many men were not taught from childhood how to deal with their emotions. That is why it has become so easy to grab a bottle and thinking that it's going to help with those emotions, when in reality it masks those emotions and then later on it just escalates them. Thank you guys so much.
Have one other question. I know the immediate effect is apparent, but in terms of the long-term effect of alcohol, I know if we have immediate effect like being drunk or masking emotions, what are some of the long-term diseases or negative impact that alcohol has on the body, especially for men?
Great question, Nisema. I really, really appreciate that. That's a good question because so many people drink, both men and women, they don't know the long term consequences of alcohol, because alcohol doesn't only affect, the liver or causes diabetes like many people think. Alcohol affects nearly every system in your body. I'll repeat that again. Alcohol affects nearly every system in the body. It raises your blood pressure, by tightening blood vessels and forcing your heart to pump harder, damaging the arteries, increasing the risk of heart attacks and stroke. Alcohol messes how your body handles blood sugar, making cells less responsive. This pushes many people who drink heavily towards pre-diabetes and diabetes, even if they are not overweight. When people think of pre-diabetes or diabetes, they think that it only occurs in people who are overweight. No. If you're drinking so much, it messes up how your body handles blood sugar. It makes your cell become unresponsive. Your liver can naturally break down alcohol, but with too much alcohol can lead to fat buildup in the liver, which is usually what we call the fatty liver. When there's so much fat buildup in the liver, it leads to that fatty liver disease. Then, if you keep on drinking and more fats keep on accumulating in your liver over time, it leads to liver inflammation, which is always called alcoholic hepatitis, right? And if you keep on drinking and from more fat build up to more inflammation, this eventually leads to liver cirrhosis, which is the permanent scarring in your liver. Long-term alcohol use is linked to higher risk. It's linked to higher risk of so many cancers, from colon cancer to throat cancer to esophageal cancer to prostate cancer. Because you know what? Alcohol breaks down as the high a toxic compound that can damage your DNA, causing cancer. Chronic alcohol use changes your brain chemistry, worsening anxiety, depression, memory loss, and over decades, even dementia. Alcohol also suppresses testosterone production. It increases cortisol, the stress hormone, leading to belly fat, muscle loss, low libido, and fatigue. The truth is, long-term drinking is not just a liver story. Long-term drinking is not just a liver story like many people think. It is a whole body story. Many men only find out when their lab work shows some, abnormal lab work or when complication shows up. But slowly, as you're drinking over the years, alcohol is destroying your whole body system. So alcohol is not just about the liver, it is about your whole body. And I see a question here from our brother Nick Clarence Dangam. He is asking, any advice to some of our African brothers who binge drink socially, like in Cameroon, especially on the weekends? Any advice to some of our African brothers who binge drink socially, frequently, like in Cameroon, especially on the weekends? Yes, thank you so much, Nick Clarence, for that awesome question. In Cameroon and in many parts of Africa, and even here too, so many people drink socially, and they think that it is okay. They think it's okay to just drink every day. Back in Cameroon, for example, in Bali, there's always cry dice every weekend, and people go from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, binge drinking and stuff. And I think that binge drinking actually turns into addiction, right? They can't go without it. They can't go without it at those occasions, even though initially it was just socially. So my advice, to our African brothers and stuff is that I think it should even start from those organizing these occasions, right? People organizing these occasions, maybe they have to start just getting maybe a little more of juices, natural juices, and instead of beers and wines, or maybe some tea. I know it's going to be a very difficult thing, but maybe we have to start from the root cause. Why are people always drinking? It's because the drink is available, the thing is available, it's free, and they have to drink. So I think we should start finding from the root what is causing them to drink all the time, because at all these cry dies and occasions, drinks are always there. And you even see people fighting and arguing, like, oh, I went to this occasion, I only had one drink, there wasn't a drink in this occasion. People, they're fighting, like, oh, they had only small beers in this occasion and stuff like that. So I think people who are organizing these occasions, they have to start introducing more water, more juice for these people. And I'm also going to tell our brothers, just because the drinks are present doesn't mean that you have to binge drink. 1 or 2 bottles is okay for the weekend. 1 or 2 bottles is okay. But when you want to drink because you saw a brasserie carb burning drinks and you want it's not okay. It's actually affecting your health. Because if you go and sit down on a Friday and you drink like a crate of beer, and on Saturday the same, and Sunday, no, it is eating up your whole body system, not just your liver. And over time, that leads to addiction. So just because you see the drinks doesn't mean that you should be drinking it. And most of these men, they find it so easy that, they go to these occasions and, it's for them, it's taking off the urge, their problems. But it's not okay. Hopefully, people who are organizing these occasions and stuff can start introducing more water, more natural juices and teas instead of alcohol. And people should start thinking that, oh, just because we have these drinks doesn't mean that I have to drink it. I hear people say all the time, some men will say, oh, I've been drinking for 10 years. I've been drinking for 20 years, because I see them every day in the clinic. I've been drinking for 20 years and I'm fine. My dad drank for 50 years and they didn't, everything has changed. What they used to put in alcohol now, in those days, I think it's changed, because we are seeing a lot of issues nowadays from, alcohol. For example, the risk of cancer has quadrupled in the past few years, and most of those cancers caused by alcohol. People don't know that. There is no safe limit of alcohol. There is no, even though they say, oh, the books say it's 1 drink for women and 2 for men. No, there is no safe limit of alcohol from my point of view. Thank you so much, Nick Clarence. I really, really appreciate that question. I hope this helped clarify it a little bit more. And our sister Funkwa BJ Bell says, I think most people seek solace in alcohol when they are stressed or depressed, because they fear being judged as weak, since they cannot talk out their problems. Very true. That is so right. Like we discussed earlier, so many men were brought up to sit quiet. They were brought up to numb their emotions. They get scared that if they talk about their problems, they're going to be judged, right? That you are not a man. That's why they just bottle up their emotions. And then the alcohol is an easy escape for them. But, holding conversations like this, it's a great way for us to start talking about these things, creating ways for our men to start expressing their emotions, because they really fear, like BJ said, that they get feared of being judged, because we live in a society where we glorify perfection. We don't have to be perfect. We think that everybody has to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. It is okay to seek for help. It's okay to cry. We have to know as men that it's okay to seek for help. It's okay to say that I am not okay. I am struggling. Because you know what? Strong men ask for help. Strong men seek for therapy. Thank you so much, BJ Bell and Nick Clarence. I really, really appreciate you guys for being here. And Nick Clarence says, Thank you for the great response. It would be great to find ways to create more awareness on this, especially in places like Bali with the Krida example and alternatives. Yes, Nee, that is really, really great. Hopefully, with educations like this, I'm hoping that we can start creating this awareness, talking about these things more often, hopefully, and then it can be reaching to our people in Bali, because that is it is so much. There's so much going on. I have a lot of people in Bali that just had sudden deaths and stuff because of alcohol. Some of them drink and they fall and hit their head, and that is it. They are gone. So it's a really, really, hopefully we can help to spread the word out. Thank you guys so much. Nisema and Damien.
Yeah, Vera, if I might step in, I know you talk about weight gain being one of the one being one of the casualty. Let me put it like a casualty from consuming a lot of alcohol, right? So
Right.
why is it that men with beer bellies, right? Men with beer belly, they often struggle more than those without beer bellies.
Great question. Great question. Thank you so much for that question. That's a great one. Yes, weight gain and men with beer bellies, right? Beer bellies, like the pot bellies, because when you drink, you get those beer bellies. That's a really great question, Damien. As we all know, alcohol is empty, high calories. Alcohol provides empty calories. Beer, wine, and liquor add a lot of calories with zero nutritional benefit. All those calories in alcohol has no nutritional value. A typical beer has approximately 150 calories. If you're drinking 2 to 3 beers every day, it adds up very fast. Plus, alcohol on its own slows down fat burning. So your body stores more of what you eat as fat. So if you're drinking 2 to 4 beers every day, it stores it as fat. And just because it's alcohol and alcohol slows down fat burning, that's why these beer bellies come up. Alcohol also raises your cortisol level. Cortisol is the stress hormone it tells your body actually to store fat, especially around your abdomen. Let me repeat that again. Alcohol raises your cortisol level. Cortisol is a stress hormone which tells your body to store fat, especially around your abdomen. So when you drink regularly, especially when you're stressed, you are telling your body to produce more cortisol, right? That favors more fat being stored in your belly area. This belly fat is linked to diabetes and heart diseases, and even some cancers. Again, alcohol suppresses testosterone levels. Testosterone is one of the key male hormones. This testosterone helps to build and maintain muscles. So when your testosterone is suppressed by alcohol, what happens? You lose muscle mass. Less muscle mass means lower metabolism. The more muscle mass you have, the more your metabolism, which helps you to burn fat faster. But when alcohol suppresses your testosterone, you lose muscle mass, and then you have slower metabolism, making it easier for you to pack on those pounds and harder to lose them. Alcohol also messes with your hunger hormones, making you crave more salt, greasy, and fatty foods. So when people drink alcohol and late at night, they're snacking on all this unhealthy, fatty, and greasy stuff. The reality is, beer belly is not just about calories. This beer belly is not just about calories, it is a mixture of hormonal disruption, slowed metabolism, and stress chemistry all working together to make weight, especially belly fat, harder to manage. Damien, I hope this answers your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, and much appreciated.
Thank you so much for that question. So this my question is gonna go to Damien and Nelson. Do men in your cycle talk about the risk of alcohol?
Let me go, Damien. I would say no. A lot of the time when we meet as men, we mostly focus on soccer. We talk a lot about soccer. We talk a little bit about politics, and less about general men's health, particularly or specifically about alcohol-related risk. Those are not topics that we talk more often in the circle of friends that I have. As I highlighted earlier, we mostly focus on soccer and a little bit of politics. I believe it's a great time with events like this for us to start having that conversation. I believe it will equally reduce the number of bottles of alcohol that
Right.
men would drink, because if you're talking about the risk while you're drinking alcohol, obviously it will raise that awareness as to how much or how many bottles should you be taking, stuff like that. Yeah, but we men, we rarely talk about the risk associated with alcohol drinking.
Thank you, Sima. Thank you so much. Yes. It's very, very difficult when people don't even know, the risk of alcohol to talk about it when they're drinking, because mostly you guys are drinking like thinking it's just social drinking, not knowing that it's actually affecting the body system. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Damien, are
as
you
as
there?
as Sima said, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you guys? Yes. So as Sima said, men don't really talk about the risk of alcohol, right? You are only going to see men talking about the risk of alcohol when they have been diagnosed with, as you said, maybe prostate or maybe diabetes or pre-diabetes, and then it dawned on most men that, you know what, this is the damage that alcohol has done, right? And that's where you that coming up. That not talk about the risk with alcohol consumption. And I think what you're doing, this is a great opportunity, right? Raising awareness and letting the society know that these are the risks. As you brought up the example in Bali or in Cameroon where people go for Kai and you give them a small bottle of beer, they're like, no, they want a bigger bottle of beer, and you can have someone that drinks a crate, right? Quality, this large quantity uh, is going to have an impact on your body, right? But if you are not educated about the risk that you're doing to your body, you're going to keep on going, right? Until one day you're going to crash, right?
Right.
Thank
Thank you so much, Damien. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is really important. Hope we can start, holding conversations like this to raise awareness about all these risk factors that are related to alcohol. So, to our viewers, what is one alcohol related health risk you did not know about before today? Type in the comment. All right, let's talk about change. Let's talk about
So
change.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question,
Yes.
Vera. So what are some of the baby steps that you think, right, that one can take, right, that guys can take if they are ready to quit drinking, right? What are some
Right.
of the steps you can advise all our people back home or here that they depend so much on alcohol? Baby steps, right? What are some of the baby steps?
Thank you so much for that great question. And before I answer that, I'm just going to read Nick Clarence Dangam's. He said, stress and belly fat. Yes, stress and belly fat. When we are stressed, that increases your stress hormones, cortisol, and cortisol tells your body to store fat around your belly area. So stress is one of the huge risk factors for belly fat too, in association with alcohol. Thank you so much, Nick Clarence. And Damien, back to your question. You were asking what are some of the baby steps if somebody is ready to quit drinking and do better. Thank you so much. I'm going to say to somebody who is ready, who is not ready to quit but wants to start doing better, because when you've been drinking alcohol for a long time, you can't just quit automatically, right? You want to start with these baby steps. I am going to tell this person, start with dry weekends. Tell yourself, this weekend I am going to be skipping alcohol and just seeing how my body and mood feels. Even a 7 to 14 days will help your brain to reset cravings and your liver to start healing. Secondly, swap your usual drink. Like I mentioned earlier when we're talking about the cry diets and the binge drinking. You can try with some juices or start with, sparkling water with limes. You can swap your drink with the sparkling water with lime, some herbal teas, or even a fancy mocktail. Often it is just about ritual, not about the alcohol itself. Pay attention to your why. Before you pour a drink in a glass, pause and ask yourself, am I drinking to enjoy or to avoid? Am I drinking to enjoy or to avoid? That is one question that should be a huge wake-up call. If you're drinking to enjoy, good. If you're drinking to run away from your emotion, that is a huge red flag. Move your body instead when you feel like drinking. Go for a short walk. Do some push-ups. 15 push-ups or stretching changes your stress chemistry. It will shift the energy that otherwise will get numbed by a drink. And you can also tell a friend, hey, I am trying to cut back. Can we go grab a coffee or tea instead of beers this week? Can we go grab a coffee or tea instead of beer this weekend? Accountability makes it real. Remember, you don't have to quit completely to get the benefit. Even small shifts start to build energy, your sleep, your mood, and your confidence. Thank you so much, Damien. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Vera, just to follow up on Damien's comment or question earlier, how can men create some kind of a support system without feeling being judged as the take their baby step towards getting better?
This is such a great and important question. How can men create support without feeling like they are being judged? Same thing our sister BJ asked earlier, that people turn to drink for solace, stress, and fear of being judged. So, how can men create support without feeling like they are being judged? This is such an important question because it strikes right at the heart of why so many men stay silent and turn to drinking. I would say Start small and safe. It doesn't have to be therapy right away. You don't have to go to therapy right away. It can be an example like testing a trusted friend. Like, for example, man, this week has been rough. I just need to vent for a second. Text that trusted friend of yours. Small, honest check ins builds comfort over time. Find people who are curious, not critical. Spend more time with friends who say, tell me more. Spend more time with friends, trusted friends who can tell you, tell me more, who can ask you what's going on. Not just telling you, tough it out, man. Emotional safety grows where there is listening, not lectures. As men, let's normalize checking in with each other. Check in with each other. When you lead with openness, others will follow. That creates a two-way support channel. Men can also try low-pressure groups. Men's cycles, faith groups, even a regular gym buddy can become space for a real talk. You don't have to unload your whole life at one time. Just start being honest. And if easier, write it down first. Journaling or voice notes help sort feelings before you can share. So if you find that it is easier for you to write down your feelings, start writing out your feelings first. Sometimes the clarity comes privately first, then it is easier for you to reach out. Support doesn't mean a big sit down heart to heart. It doesn't mean you have to go for therapy initially. It is about slowly building spaces where you can be real without fearing judgment, even if it starts with one honest text. That was such a great question. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
our sister BJ Bell says, most of those who are already addicted to alcohol, especially my brothers in Cameroon, despite their knowledge of the consequences, they have a slogan: you drink, you die. You don't drink, you still die. This makes it difficult to even start discussing about alcohol to drinkers. Yes, very, very difficult when it's become an addiction. Very difficult. I'm really hoping that maybe one day in Cameroon, they can start having all these alcohol groups, where people can go in for therapy and alcohol stuff. Because, yeah, I have heard those slangs so often. And I'm sure that Damien and Nelson have heard the slangs to people say, oh, but you can actually know when it's addiction. You can actually see when it's addiction. There's so many things that I was growing up back in Cameroon, I didn't know. I saw many of these people who were addicted to alcohol, and I was upset. I was upset with them, but I didn't know it's turned to addiction. You tell them stop, but they're not going to stop because they need help. They need therapy. They have to go for help, but we don't have this help in Cameroon. We don't have this help available. And then these people are surrounded every day by people who drink. So how can they stop drinking? It's it's tough. And this always breaks my heart because I've had families who have died from alcohol addiction. It is horrible. I've been better at educating them now that I know better. And I just look back and I think of those who have passed away because of the alcohol. And it breaks my heart. And I hope and wish that, one day we can keep on doing, making conversations like this. Hopefully can get there. But I'm really hopeful that one day we can get some form of help for these people, because there's a lot of alcohol addiction in our community. And it's so crazy because alcohol is one of the legal drugs that is just being sold to people. It's sold, even though it's a drug, it causes addiction, but it's just sold to people legally, unlike cigarette, but it's causing so much danger. So hopefully we can keep on making conversations like this, and then we can maybe therapy and help. We help, but it's a difficult, it's a tough situation when somebody is addicted to alcohol. It's not just about talking; they need help. And Nick Clarence says, thanks again, Vera, and our panelists, Damien and Nelson. I learned a lot and look forward to future shows. Thank you so much, Nick Clarence. We're going to be notifying you whenever we have future events coming up. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be asking a question to Damien and Nelson. What changes have you made or are you planning to make after today's discussion? What changes have you made or are you planning to make after today's discussion?
Yeah, let me try this one. I think one of the proposed solution that you talked about is try the dry weekend, so like 7 days sober, weekdays. Try more lemon juice in place of alcohol, and equally try to read more about the risk associated to alcohol drinking, because knowing more about it will guide your understanding of the risk, and you will make the judgment whether or not this is something that you want to continue doing, or do you need to take a step back and reevaluate what benefits you get from drinking alcohol versus what are the risks, because we only look at the benefit when we do social drinking, or whether it's some kind of habit, but we rarely talk about when we really drink, what do we benefit? Is there any benefit apart from just the social gathering? I think that will be a takeaway for me to reevaluate my drinking habit and see what needs to change. Is it something that will be personal change, or does it need specialist to speak to somebody for guidance? I think those are some of the thoughts that while on this program and listening to you speak and questions too from Damien, I was kind of having some background thoughts around, like, how am I going to transition from listening to this conversation into taking better steps that will help me cut back or actually stop the drinking. And I can tell you, I know somebody who have stopped alcohol for 2 3 years, and he's doing really well. Uh, he's doing really well. I think it's a good thing. Thank you for
That's
the opportunity.
that's really, really awesome. Yep, that's awesome. And baby steps. Baby steps is very important. You don't have to quit it right now. You take baby steps. Thank you so much, Sima. Thank you. I appreciate.
I think for me is I'm going to talk to my friends more about this, right? I think we need this, right? Raising awareness and education, and as Sima said, just educating them to know the risk, right? As
Can you hear us, Damien?
yes, I can hear. Yeah, I said for me, one of the changes that I'm going to make after this is actually talking about it more with my friends out there, right? I think this is what is needed, right? Because we often say knowledge is power, right? So educating them, raising their awareness, arming them with the knowledge that they need enables them to make those changes that is necessary. So I think raising awareness is key.
Thank you so much, Damien. Yes, raising awareness is the key because so many people just think they're drinking socially, not knowing about all the risks. We all just think about the benefits initially. Meanwhile, there are so many risks associated to alcohol. Thank you guys so much. So let's take a few questions. If anybody has a question, anybody in the audience has a question, feel free to drop your questions in the comments or share anonymously through our chat link. Let's talk. We are going to give 1 or 2 minutes for questions if anybody has. Please drop your questions in the comment section. No question is too small or silly. Please drop your questions in the comment section. And Damien is asking, okay, let me see here. I think we have a question. Let me look at it. What is the difference between social drinking and emotional dependency? What is the difference between social drinking and emotional dependency? What is the difference between social drinking and emotional dependency? Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So what is the difference between social drinking and emotional dependency? Social drinking is when you're drinking intentionally, right, to celebrate, where it is shared in a positive environment. So when you're drinking with friends to celebrate, that is okay, that is social drinking. Emotional dependency is when we use alcohol as a crutch, when we use it to numb stress or to quiet the mind, or when we use it to fall asleep. So when you're drinking, ask yourself these questions. Will I still be okay without the drink tonight? That's your answer. If you're okay without a drink tonight, you are okay. It is socially. But when you cannot sleep because you didn't drink, that is emotional dependency. Thank you so much for that question. And I think we do have some questions here. We have our brother here, Tanya Derrick. He's asking, how does alcohol lead to fatty liver disease? How does alcohol lead to fatty liver disease? Thank you, Derek, so much for that question. Thank you. That's a great question. Alcohol can lead to fatty liver disease in the sense that alcohol slows down fat burning, right? So when you drink a lot of alcohol, it slows down the way your body burns fat. And secondly, alcohol increases your stress hormones, which is cortisol. And when your body is stressed from alcohol, it tells the cortisol increases, which tells your body to store fat around your abdominal area. This is what leads to the alcohol fatty liver, because alcohol is also full of empty calories, and alcohol slows down how your body responds to insulin. So when you're drinking alcohol, there's so much empty calories that gets stored as fat around your liver. This is what leads to fatty liver disease. How does alcohol lead to nutritional deficiency? Alcohol naturally depletes all the nutrients in your body. Most people, when they are drinking, because alcohol is empty calories, they do not even remember food, right? They just drink and they become full, so they don't remember to eat. And so they are losing nutrients. They are losing this nutrient. I hope this answers your questions, Derek. Thank you so much for that great question. No question is too small or silly. Please drop your questions in the comment. I am going to give 1 minute, and you can also drop your questions anonymously. And we're going to be answering some of our questions that we did get anonymously. Someone asks, can alcohol affect men differently than women? Can alcohol affect men differently than women? Yes, men tend to metabolize alcohol faster, but that does not protect them from the damage of alcohol. What is more alarming is men are less likely to seek help when alcohol starts affecting their sleep, their mood, or their health. So the damage often goes unnoticed for longer. To Damien and Nelson, do you guys have anything to contribute to this question about if alcohol affects men differently from women?
What I've learned, like from general knowledge in the public, is men with muscle mass, a lot of muscle, have less impact on when it comes to alcohol. I don't have the details in terms of how that metabolism works, but I've heard that the reason why it affects women more than men is because most men do have muscle that kind of have a different way that it break down alcohol. That will be my contribution to that.
Right. And that's very correct. That's very, very right. You know, men tend to metabolize the alcohol faster than women because of their muscles and their chemistry. So, but that still does not protect them from the damage that alcohol causes. Thank you so much, Sima. Thank you. Can Damien hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Do you have anything to contribute on why, how alcohol affects men differently than women?
Yes, yeah, Sima rightly said, right? So you you also have to know that alcohol affects men in different ways, and is also based on the age, right, or their
Right.
ages, right? So if you're younger, even though your metabolism is very active and still intact, and somebody who is in his mid 50, alcohol is going to affect these two age groups differently, right? So it also depends on your metabolism, and also your drinking habit, right? Are you a social drinker, as you said, right? How many alcohols do you drink? Bottles of alcohol do you take a week, right? Versus how many bottles you take a day, right? So things like that.
Thank you so much, Damien. Thank you. That was a great one. And we're going to ask one more question. How do you help a friend who might be drinking too much but does not see it? How can you help a friend who might be drinking too much but does not see it? How can we help our friends who might be drinking too much but they don't see a problem with that? For me, I think that I can help this person by talking to them in a non judgmental way, because the issues that most people have, it's when people are being judgmental, when they cannot express their feeling. So actively listening to these people, talking to them in a non-judgmental way, and helping them, like say, let's go grab a tea or some water instead of going for alcohol, it's very important. Letting them know that alcohol doesn't define them, letting them know that, there are several other safe outlets for their stress instead of turning to alcohol. But the most important ones are listening and being non-judgmental, because when we don't actively listen and we judge these people, they're just going to run away. They're not going to talk about what is happening to them. They're not going to talk about why they are drinking. So that is how I'm going to help somebody who is drinking. I'm going to ask them what is going on. I'm going to be asking them what is happening, but in a non-judgmental way. I'm going to constantly check in on them to know what is happening. Are you stressed? It is okay to be stressed. So that is how I'm going to help somebody who is drinking but doesn't see anything wrong with that. Damien and Nelson, do you guys have anything to contribute about this?
Yeah, I would say one of the first thing is to, since this individual doesn't see a problem with their drinking, is to create that awareness. Let them realize first that their action has some negative impact, either directly on their life or the lives of those who depend on them. And one of those is if that impacts your activity of daily living, so if you miss work, if you miss school, if you miss your kids' activity, those are signs that, like, you drink last night and you could not wake up on time to drop your kids in school, at school or their activities. Those are some of those warning signs. So first create that awareness to let them understand that because you drank last night, you did not wake up on time. It
Right.
impacted your ability to drop your kid at the activity on time. Then once you have that awareness acknowledged, then we start talking about the impact, other impacts. For example, if you have ever run into police issue, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you
From
get
being
in contact with police, it has financial impact, right? Your insurance might go up, so you start having some of those. conversations that directly impact that person as a result of drinking alcohol, so that they see the negative impact. So that will kind of drive the conversation uh, as to what do we need to do in order to stay away from police. Once we stay away from police, our insurance will start dropping, right? So we see some of those benefits. So we drop our kids on time, stuff like that. Yeah. So that's how I will approach somebody who doesn't see that their drinking alcohol have any impact on the life or the life of the people around them. Yeah.
That's a great one. Thank you so much, Nelson. That is a great one. Creating awareness and holding these hard conversations with these people. Very, very important. That is really, really true because sometimes people need to take accountability for their actions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Damien, can you hear us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think raising awareness or bringing that awareness to light is very important. But one thing we have to know, or we have to take into consideration, is that, as we said before, there are people that there are guys that do not even accept that they have this problem, right? So I think asking for him to seek professional help is also a great way to help, right? Because maybe they are more comfortable talking to a professional who knows
Right,
nothing about their background than talking to you, right?
right.
So we have to try every approach and see which approach is going to be the best or what works. Because what works for A might not work for B, right? So that's how I'm going to approach it.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Damien. Yes. Therapy. Some people, they don't want to talk to their families or their friends because they get feared of being judged, people judging them. They are scared that their families are going to judge them or their families are going to say they're not man enough. So yes, maybe telling them to go to therapy is the right approach. That is really, really awesome. Thank you guys so much. Do you all have anything to add before we go for the closing?
I was looking for my
Anybody?
mute button. Yeah, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share and equally learn. I think, as you stated earlier, no knowledge is small, no question is invalid. I think I've learned a lot, as Damien said, share the knowledge, try as much as possible to equally help myself and those around me, especially men, to be able to acknowledge the risk that comes with drinking alcohol and see what changes needs to be done to get better, because alcohol does not only impact you, directly impacts your family. If something happens to you, you
Right.
have family that depends on you. So the repercussion sometimes is invisible until it actually happens.
Thank you so much, Nelson. Thank you. I really, really appreciate you for being here today. Damien, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Yeah, I just want to take the time as well to thank you, Vera, for this great show. And I think this is something that we need in the society that we live in today, right?
Can you hear us, Damien?
And I think it's, can you hear me? And I think it's going to
Yes.
go a long way if we can help educate our brothers and sisters back home. I know the slogan they use at home that you drink, you die, you don't drink, you die. But I think we just need to keep pushing, right? And getting the knowledge out there for them to know the risks associated with alcohol. And I hope we can keep having uh, shows like these, right, where we can keep raising that awareness. And I hope with that we can gradually make a difference.
Thank you so much, Damien. So before we close out Men's Health Month and this powerful episode of the shift, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to every man who showed up today, who listened, reflected, and maybe even saw yourself in this conversation. Thank you so much. To my guests and brothers, Damien and Nelson, thank you both for being brave, honest, and willing to sit in a space where most men are told to stay silent. Your voices have echoed far beyond this episode. This month, we have talked about weight, hormones, strength, energy, libido, and now the deeply personal truth behind alcohol and emotional health. But here is what I hope every man lives with today. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to shift, to change. You don't need to hit rock bottom to start rising. Men's health is about more than the doctor's office. It is about how you care for your body, your mind, and your emotions every single day. And when you feel seen and supported, that's when true healing begins. Because you know what? Strong men ask questions. Strong men ask questions about their emotions. Strong men know that it is okay not to be okay. Strong men seek therapy. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.